So you've probably been told that you need to learn how to master your mind. But how can you master something that you don't yet understand? The thing is, most people think that the mind is just one thing, but it's actually composed of 4 different instruments. And until you understand what those 4 instruments are and how they actually work together, you'll always feel restless, pulled, and confused. So in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly what the 4 components of your mind are, how they work together, and how understanding all of this will aid you to eventually master your mind. What I'm about to share with you today is a synthesized understanding drawn from my own personal 25 years of meditation, but it's also drawn from ancient wisdom and ancient texts. So to help you make sense of all this, I've broken the mind down into what I've called the theatre of the mind. And this is kind of like the framework that I use to understand, conceptualize, and in this case, see how the mind is actually composed. What are the 4 parts of the mind, and what is their role? What's each of the individual roles of each of the different parts of the mind? So to start off with, I want to start off with the actor. The actor is what most of us will know as being the ego. That's the part that assumes ownership of anything that enters this area which we're calling the mind. So anything that comes into the experience of the mind, such as thoughts, feelings, experiences from outside, it will be sensed as experienced by the ego. The ego will often claim ownership over that experience. I had a good dinner. I enjoyed that. I like to wear the color black. This is my thought. This is my feeling. This sense of ownership is coming from a part of the mind, not just the mind itself, but a part of the mind which we call the actor in this theatre of the mind. It's a part of the mind that is very dominant, and it's a part of the mind that can intercept other parts of the mind and interfere with other workings within the mind. So the ego is very smart, it's very complex, and it's something that we shouldn't be looking to get rid of, but it's something that we should be looking to subjugate and have control over. The ego is incredibly valuable. We need to have a sense of I, and the ego, or the actor, is the thing that keeps us safe. It's the thing that makes us run when we're in danger, or fight in some cases when we're in danger. It's needed. We need to feel hungry. I need food. This is my body. I need to look after it. This sense of I comes from the actor. The issue is that the actor has grown in strength in most of us. The actor is very, very dominant in most of us. And it thinks that it is an I. But its purpose is to keep us safe. Its purpose is to give us just enough sense of I-ness so that we can look after ourselves. If it's too big, if it's claiming ownership over everything that enters the mind, so any thoughts, any experiences, then it's not completely true that it is owned by the ego. That's just a sense that we've got. So this leads on to the second part of the mind, and the ego I'll talk about a little bit more as we go along because it's going to be relevant to some of the other parts. The next part is the director. The director represents our discerning faculty. So neither of these parts are inherently us. These are just inner instruments within the mind. They're aspects of the mind that if we use properly will be used to benefit us. But if we don't have them under management, if we don't understand what their role is, then we can't manage them and the mind runs riot and causes all sorts of problems. So the director is the discerning faculty. And you might be wondering, how is that relevant? What role does that have? Well, let's take the idea of thoughts entering the field of the mind. A thought enters the field, and that thought might be, I might go to the gym tomorrow. That thought is an uplifting thought. Now, what should happen is that this should be taken by the director. The director should have its hands on that thought to start with and say, yes, that's going to aid me, or no, I don't need that, that's not helpful to me. If, however, either the director is not able to see these thoughts because it's so clouded by beliefs, by perceptions, by ego, because what can happen is that the thought enters and the ego intercepts the thought first and says, I don't want to go to the gym, I'm going to carry on playing my PlayStation, or I'm going to carry on scrolling on Instagram. So these two parts of the mind need to work in a specific way. The best way that it works is when something comes into the mind, the intellect or the actor is the part of us that takes that thought and looks at it and says, that's going to help me or that's not going to help me. So the intellect is not just, it's not about intellectual knowledge, it's not about being smart or clever, it's about your ability to see truth and discern between what's right, what's wrong, or what's going to aid us and what's going to hinder us. What happens for most of us is that thoughts enter the mind, and because the ego has become so strong and so dominant, it assumes identity or ownership over that thought, and it says, I'm happy, I'm sad, I don't want to do that. It's very fickle. It will take us down paths that aren't helpful to us. And that's because, we've got the toddler who's leading the adult, whereas in reality, the adult needs to be leading the toddler. So this is where we have to have clarity over what part of us is observing a thought or taking a thought on at any one time. And you might be wondering, well, how can we get better at discerning like this? And to me, this is where meditation comes in. I teach meditation. I've got a meditation school. It's called the Inner Journey School. I'll put a link in the description below. But when you sit down to meditate, thoughts will appear in your mind, which is very natural. And what you'll find is that the ego will be identifying with these thoughts when you're a beginner in meditation. As you get better, what you'll be able to do is create some distance from these thoughts. And you'll become better at more quickly letting go of thoughts and not just identifying with them, not just grasping onto them and letting them take you away, but more space feels as though it appears between you, what we're identifying as being you, which I'll talk about in a moment, and the thought that enters your mind. And in that space, the intellect, or in this case, the director, the part of your mind that can discern, has space to actually sit and say, no, I don't need that thought. So this is a really, really important part of the mind. You've got the ego and the director. Now, all of this is taking place in the field of, in the theatre in this metaphor, but in the field of awareness. So in the mind itself, if the mind was a container with which each of these instruments were sitting within, this is where our thoughts and experiences are actually experienced. So I'll call that the stage or the mental field. And now I'll move on to the final aspect of the mind, which is the light itself. Now this is composed itself of a couple of different parts. So the light is three parts. It's the will. So that means that's the part of us that says, I'm going to choose the director and go with what the director said, or I'm going to choose what the ego said. Or it might sit back and just observe neutrally. So this is where our free will is. Our free will is tied up within this light or within our consciousness. It's the part of us that is very much like a coin. On a coin, there are two sides. And on one side, we've got the conscious mind, which is the stage where all of our thoughts are experienced, where the ego is, where the director is, where the field of our thoughts rest upon, the surface of our mind, if you like. And that conscious mind illumines this area. But beyond the conscious mind, on the other side of the coin, is our subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is where all our memories are stored, all our thoughts, all our impressions, everything that we've experienced is stored in the subconscious mind. So when we're in our waking day state, we're very much aware of the conscious mind, but when we go to sleep at night, we lose awareness of the conscious field and we go onto the other side of the coin, and we're either in the subconscious or the unconscious parts of the mind. And it doesn't stop there, but just to keep things simple for this particular explanation, there are two parts to that. So it's our memory, it's our will, and it's all of our thoughts and impressions, habits, tendencies, all reside within this light that illuminates the field, the mental field, the stage where we're experiencing everything. Now you might be wondering with this, well, okay, that's the mind, all these varying different parts come together to make up the mind, but who are we? Well, most people will stop and say, well, I'm the consciousness, I'm the part that's aware of it. But in actual fact, we are much further beyond that. We're what I would call the Atma, or the divine spark, which is the essence and the root of absolutely everything. It's the essence and the root of all the different states of mind, because there's more beyond this. That Atma, that divine spark, is identical to God. It's identical to the divine, which is why when I tell my students, we are, or you are, one with the divine, it's because that essence is identical to the divine. There's no separation whatsoever. Now, this is the theoretical understanding of the mind, but if you really want to understand actually how to manage and master the mind, you have to act on it and you have to work at it. And I think that meditation is one of the most profound tools that you can use to do that. And if you want to learn more about how to meditate, I'll leave a link in the description. I've got a new course coming up. It's called The Way of Divine Meditation. It's all about connecting with the divine within us. So if you feel called, check it out. There's a link in the description below. But as always, thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one.